Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about the new updated and buffed Nemesis, and in contrast to Dracula, who I don't really like, the overall feel of. The new Nemesis, I love the overall feel of. Again, it needs to be stated that this is not really a depiction of really strong or weak or the strength of the killer itself. It's just an overall feel, and I've always felt that the feel of a killer is more important than how strong they actually are, which is why I don't really care how good or bad Dracula is. I just didn't like the feel of him, but Nemesis feels much better to play now. Now, Nemesis got 3 notable buffs. The first one was the hinder duration. So hinder used to apply for 0.2 seconds when you would infect someone for the first time. Now, it was a very powerful 20% hinder, but it lasted such a short amount of time, it was literally imperceptible. You could not see it. So now that lasts a full 2 seconds now, and the Liquor Tongue add-on adds 3 seconds on top of that. As I made a video about, though, even with that, they obviously nerfed the hinder massively to the point where there's essentially no difference. So this is the only change about Nemesis that you pretty much can't even tell. I literally can't tell the difference. So they nerfed the hinder so much that it's just imperceptible. That was just one buff, though. The other 2 things that feel extremely good to play with Nemesis are the changes to infection gain and the range in tier 3. The infection gain change is so nice because now you can get tier 2 after your first chase, which means you no longer have to take a chase of somebody and then go out of your way and hit a zombie to get to tier 2. Now you just get it immediately. As long as you're hitting your tentacles, you'll get it on your first chase, which is incredibly important. Getting to tier 2 is so important as Nemesis. You have essentially no power when you're in tier 1. Once you have the ability to actually break pallets with your power, then you're actually starting to become a real threat. So being able to get that now off of your first chase is absolutely huge. Additionally, you can use Marvin's Blood and actually get tier 2 before you even finish your first chase. You only need to hit 2 tentacles instead of 3 if you have Marvin's Blood on, which means you can actually use your tier 2 pallet breaking to help you even get the first down, making me think that Marvin's Blood is an insanely strong add-on. So that is something I want to run on this killer basically every single time, because being able to get the pallet breaking power before your first chase even ends is monumentally different in terms of his early game pressure. It's really nice. And he really struggles a lot in early game. Even when I'm doing well, it's not really unlikely for my first chase to take a gen and a half, or maybe even 2 gens on a really bad map or something like that. Now, once that happens, Nemesis starts to snowball much better, because now you're in tier 3, approaching tier 3, and your chase power is much stronger. Zombies are starting to patrol now. So yeah, he's got a very weak early game, and that will always, in my opinion, prevent him from being a top tier killer. He's never going to be top tier because his early game is simply not strong enough. But it is significantly better than it used to be now, and that's a huge deal. So that's a very big change. The second change that just feels incredible is the range buff in tier 3. I cannot tell you how many times, even just the past couple of days, I've gotten downs off of that extra half a meter of range. It is absolutely noticeable. So little things like turning into Shaq and hitting someone at the window. Shaq is basically guaranteed death versus Nemesis now as long as he's in tier 3. You pretty much can't not get hit unless he just whiffs, which, to be fair, his power can be kind of difficult to use. So you can whiff, but once you get really good at Nemesis, you're basically getting a hit at Shaq every single time, no matter what. And that is very powerful. He's so good at being able to get quick hits around corners. I've found while playing Nemesis, that is one of the most reliable ways to get hits. You round your power around a corner like that. That was very smart of the survivor in the clip, though. He knew that was coming and actually ran away from the loop instead. But rounding corners like that and then shooting before they can even react is one of the best ways to make survivors not dodge your hit, because it is hard to actually hit the tentacle. I have said this since I first started Nemesis, when Avery came out, and even again now. Hitting close range tentacles I find to be literally one of the most difficult things in the game. I play in a very high DPI. I have 2500 DPI, so I have to turn with keyboard with Hillbilly. But with Nemesis, trying to make those little micro adjustments as they juke right the last second when they're right up in your FOV, I find to be legitimately very difficult. And that is my roadblock in becoming a, like a master Nemesis player. I still need to get the hang of hitting those close range tentacles, which, by the way, are kind of worth using now because there's another buff that I just forgot to mention, and is that your successful tentacle hits now have a quicker cooldown than before. Went from 2.5 to 2.25 seconds, which again, 0.25 seconds doesn't seem like very much, but when we're talking about numbers that small, percentage-wise, that's a pretty sizable increase. So that results in less distance being gained, and that is very, very useful. The hinder really doesn't do too much, but the cooldown and then the range, it just makes it makes Nemesis just so much better feeling to play, and I think that is the most important part about all these changes. Overall, I would say Nemesis now is probably like top of B tier. He's, again, not an incredibly remarkable killer by any means, and he can range from A tier to like low B tier depending on your zombie RNG. That is the main thing that limits how good Nemesis can actually be. It's just his slowdown is based on RNG. You can have zombies that are insanely useful and save the game. I have had games that have been single-handedly saved by zombies. And then there are times your zombies just get stuck in a hill or something like that, and they do nothing. And having a killer that has their map control tied to RNG, in my opinion, will never be reliably good. Their highs are very high, and their lows aren't even that bad, because you still have an extremely strong chase power. But yeah, an extremely strong chase power with zero map control, it still is not going to let you be a top-tier killer. So I don't think Nemesis will ever be like comfortably in like A-tier, but there are certain maps where his zombies allow him to be A-tier, because like I said, his chase is still very, very strong in the hands of a good player. He has one of the best anti-loops in the entire game, to be honest. And there are certain maps like Larry's or RPD where zombies can be a huge problem, completely blocking off hallways, pressuring generators and things like that, and that can absolutely be a big deal. But then sometimes you have giant maps like, Crota's Print Asylum where you'll never see a zombie the entire game. So yeah, because he is very RNG dependent, he'll never be top tier, but the important part is that now I would say he just feels good to play. Everything about Nemesis, even before the buffs, just the visceral feedback from playing the killer, the stomping sounds, the punching sound effects, the whip hits, the little chime that plays when you infection tier up, just everything about him aesthetically just feels good. And like I said, that is the most important part of a killer to me, whether or not it feels good to play. And I've been playing Nemesis for basically 2 weeks straight now, have not even slightly gotten bored. So that is great. Overall, the changes to Nemesis, I think, were great. He feels very, very good to play right now. Again, never going to be a top-tier killer or anything like that, but that's okay because he feels awesome to play. That's it. Curious to hear you guys' thoughts on the new Nemesis. I still have to try a new Dredge. I did play one game with him and found that teleporting was much nicer. But other than that, I still don't really like Dredge that much, so we'll see. But thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.